Hi friends, in this tutorial we are going to discuss about application.property file. So what is the use of application.property file in your Spring Boot? So in our previous videos we discussed about what are the advantage of your Spring Boot over Spring. So if you are using a Spring Boot, so the one of the advantages less configurations. So you no need to configure any XML files like web.xml, -servlet.xml, all those things are removed. Means all the boilerplate coding and boilerplate configurations, everything is removed from Spring Boot application. So now I want to provide my configurations. So like I want to connect my application with database. So where I need to provide my data source details, and I want to enable some securities. So where I need to provide all those things. So for that, so Spring provides application.property file. So in that file, you can provide your configurations details with respect to your application. So if you look into this, so if you go to your application, yes, this is our application we have already created. So here, see, this is the application.property file, which is provided by your Spring Boot framework. We have not created. So when you are creating a project from Spring Initializer, so this folder structure is going to provided by your Spring Boot framework only. So here, if you want to provide some configurations, so you need to add your configurations here. So if I run my server, so go to console. See, the default port is 8080. So from where it is reading, so first it will check our application.property file. In our application.property file, do we have provided any configurations? No, right? So it will read these configurations by default property file, which is provided by your Spring Boot framework. So if you want to override those default settings or default properties, so you need to provide your means your own configurations here in the application.property file. So if you are providing your configurations in the application.property file, then what will happen is, so it overrides the default property file configurations and it will takes from you. So what are the configurations you have provided in application.property file? So if you are not providing anything, any configurations, because your application.property file is having no configurations, so what it will do is, so it will take us some default configurations like port number, so from your default configurations. So now due to some reason, the other application is running on 8080. Now I want to change my port. So now how you can do that? So see, server, so your Spring Boot will provide the suggestions also. So I want to change server port number because already one microservice is running on 8080. This microservice should run at 8081. So now what you need to do is you need to override the default configuration and you need to provide your server port number because already 8080 is occupied by another microservice. So now I want to, if I won't provide any configurations here, so what will happen? This also tries to run on 8080 and you will get port already bind exception. So to overcome that, so I want to provide 8081 port number for this application. So now server that for that, or else directly you can run port port, see, server that port. Now so instead of that I want to provide 9080. Okay. Now if you look into this, so it's a key value pair, key and value. So it's a key value pair. Here you don't no need to provide any double quotes. So simply, so this tag is provided by your Spring Boot framework. So now if I rerun my application, see my application got started at 9080 because the configurations whatever you have provided is overrides the default configurations. Now your Spring Boot framework will read the configurations from here. Now I don't want to have this banner. So banner banner dot mode banner, sorry banner. So this is server port number and banner banner mode something, yes, banner mode, see, is equal to off. So these are the suggestions provided by your Spring framework only, means Spring Boot framework only. See? Now if I don't want to have this banner, so you can off that. So if I rerun that application, run Spring Boot application. See, if you look into this, so there is no banner and it started at 9080. So we have overridden the default configurations of Spring Framework. So if you want to override the default configurations, so you need to provide your configurations in the application.property file. So how it will read? So key value, this is key and this is value. So these are the configurations provided by your Spring Framework. So if you go to here, see, this is that's.spring.io. If you go to this, so these are the configurations provided by your Spring Boot framework itself. These are the configurations. So now let me remove this. Now I want to connect to some database. So now I want to connect to MySQL database and I want to insert the data into that database. So for that, you need to configure your data source URL, data source username, data source password, all those things, right? So data source URL. So here you provide your data source URL. Now data source username, data source, one second, data source, so username and password. Not that password. So like that. So these are the properties provided by your Spring Boot framework. So here provide your data source URL. So if you are using MySQL database, let's provide MySQL database related things, username and password. So now you no need to read these properties. Means this is key and this is value. This is key, this is value. You no need to read the key from here. So your Spring Boot will read all the things. How it will read? If you remember, in our main application, auto configuration animation is there. Spring Boot So let me go to here. Okay. If you look into this, it's a combination of three annotations. So auto configure is annotation is there. So from sorry, enable auto configuration is there. So from this annotation, it will reach all the configurations. Now, I want to read my user defined means my custom variable. So how you can read that? So some name I want to pass it to my application user dot name. This user dot name. No need to provide anything. No. Now this is now this is not a Spring Boot framework provided key value pair. So it's our custom defined, user defined. So now I want to read this value to my application. So how you will read this? So, so how you will read this? Yes, these are the whatever you have provided till now. So these are Spring Framework predefined properties. So you don't need to read those things. So if you look at this, so all these are your Spring Framework provided attributes, means properties are attributes. So you no need to read manually. So your Spring Framework will take care and it will read internally. But when it comes to here, it's a user defined property. So how to read that one? So now let me create one controller. So where I need to create a controller in this package. So class I want to create app. So this is property, right? Application.property. So app property controller. I have created. Now it's an ordinary class. So how to make this as a controller? So use get best controller. Now it's a controller. Now, so your REST controller will have some methods. So let me write one method properly. Now return some value. So now I want to read this property in my controller. So how to read that? So now we are in the package string name. So now this is a variable. So now I want to read the property and I want to bind the values to this variable. Now for that you need to use value annotation is there. So with that value annotation, value. Okay. Value annotation is there, value. So with that annotation, you can able to read the properties. So dollar sign. Yeah, this is a syntax you need to use. So provide this. Yeah. So this is the way you can read the custom properties. This is not so if you go to here, it's not a Spring Boot framework provided property. It's a user defined property. How to read this user defined property? So you can read this in DO layer also, in the controller also you can read. So now I'm reading in controller. So how to read them? For that, you need to use at the rate value annotation. And this value will be binded to this variable. So now, let me write this and line. Now, whatever the value, so it will be. So now, it's an ordinary method. I want to call it from my RESTful webs. So I want to make this method as a RESTful web service. So for that, I'm using get annotation. Now, yes, already test is there. So in another controller test is there. So we'll get something. So we'll get ambiguity. So property test. Custom, okay, custom property test. Custom property test. So this is the URL, the path. So now how your endpoint will look like is URL or URL will look like http colon localhost and where your server is running. Port number is 9080. Yes, we have changed the port number. Default port number 8080 to use a different port number. So 9080 slash. So what is the path? This is the path. And which method we are using? Get method. So for this, we need to use get method. HTTP get method we need to use. So this is the way to call this web service. So now if you call this web service, it will cause this one and it will bind the values to this variable. Whatever the value you have provided there, that will be binded to this one and it should return the value. So I don't want to go with the v name. Hello world. Yeah, hello. So now you should get hello world output when you call this method. Now I'm going to post my so now HTTP post port number is 9080 slash path is cp test and the method is get. Understand? So Punapur error not found. Sorry, repeat test. That is HTTP colon localhost. Let me check one more time. CP test. Get mapping. So port number is okay. Let me start the server once. Let me restart. Project team. So project clean this once. So run it. As a Spring Boot application. Now, let's see the server gets started at 9080. So the port I have given is correct only HTTP localhost 9080 and so go to the controller now It is CP test. Copy custom property test. CP and it's 10. Once again, I have done. Okay. Sorry. I am not supposed to give double quotes here. See, Spring Boot also provides one more property. So dev tool dependency you need to add. So whenever you do some changes, so you don't need to restart the server. So it will automatically deploys your application. So that I will explain next example. Auto redeployment. Whenever you are doing some changes, whenever you are saving your file, it will automatically deploys your application. And Spring Boot application. So it's got started. Send it. Launch a program. This test HTTP localhost. Something is doing, but 1 second. Then go to my HTTP host 9080 username. Everything is correct, right? Yeah. 1 second. Let me give test. And Spring Boot application. Started. Why is coming Dell after name? Where is the issue? Username Dell. Okay, might be it's okay. Username dot app name. So let me try this because I hope it's reading my system name. I think username means. So now let me try this. Let me start. New application. So it's started. See, hello. I'm sorry. So what happening is so it's a issue with the property name. So by default, it's reading my system name. So user that name, if I'm taking that attribute, what it is doing is internally it's reading the system name. So now I have changed it to username that app name. So I think user that name is this attribute, this property is reading my system name. So that's why I'm getting del. So that is a problem. So I changed it to username that app name. So this is the custom property provided by me in the application.property file. So now how to read that? By using value annotation. So now whatever the value you are reading from this property will be binded to this variable. Now I am returning this. So if you look into this, sorry. Okay. Test 1, 2, 3. Now I'm doing the postman. Hello world is it's returning, right? So that value only it's showing here. So this is a way you need to provide the custom properties. If you so your Spring Boot also provides its own properties. So we have already discussed. So where is it? So these are the properties provided by the Spring Boot. See data source. If you want to give anything, so data source. Let's see data source related these things. If you want to get it to connect to some database, so username, password, URL, user. These are database specific properties provided by your Spring Boot. Hope you understood this. So we'll meet in next video, and in the next video we will discuss about Dev tool, one of the dependency of your Spring Boot, so to auto reboot your application. Thank you.